All right, let's talk about power. You think people just give it to you? Nah, that's a fantasy. In the real world, power is not handed to you on a silver platter with a bow on top. Nah, you gotta take it. But here's the thing. There's a guy who figured this out long before any of us. His name? Niccolò Machiavelli. This dude didn't sit around whining about how the world should be. He cared about how it actually works. While everyone else was busy writing books about the ideal ruler, Machiavelli was like, yeah, screw that. Let me tell you how to actually run things. And trust me, if you understand what this guy said, you'll see how this same playbook is still running everything, from business to relationships and, yeah, even your DM. So what's Machiavelli's secret? He figured out how to control people. And in case you missed it, that's pretty much everything. And the kicker? The elites don't want you to ever figure this out. So buckle up, because here comes the forbidden wisdom. You ready? Part 1, the truth about human nature. All right, let's stop lying to ourselves. People love to believe we're all guided by morals, logic, and higher values, but peel back the mask and you'll see something way simpler and way more uncomfortable. Humans, we're not moved by virtue, we're moved by need, self-interest, and fear. That's the engine. Everything else, just decoration. You hold value, they love you. You threaten it, they flip. You remove it, they vanish. It's not personal, it's programming. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. While philosophers were busy debating what should be, he studied what is. No fairy tales, no filters, just raw human mechanics. And what did he find? That people will clap for you in public and plot on you in private. That they'll call you family right up until your success outgrows their comfort. That they'll praise your loyalty until betrayal becomes more convenient. He wasn't being cynical, he was being real, because when survival's on the line, morals go missing. When power enters the room, loyalty gets tested. And when truth becomes uncomfortable, people choose comfort every time. Here's what most won't tell you. Loyalty is conditional. Morality is situational. And perception, that's the real game. So if you're still playing by the rules written by people who don't even follow them, you're setting yourself up to get played. But once you understand human nature, once you stop expecting people to be what they pretend to be, you stop getting blindsided, you stop reacting, and you start calculating. Because in the end, it's not about who's right or who's good. It's about who understands the rules underneath the performance and moves accordingly. Part 2, fear versus love. All right, now we're entering dangerous territory. Let's talk about one of the most uncomfortable truths Machiavelli ever dropped. A truth so cold, it still rattles people 500 years later. It's better to be feared than loved. Yeah, you heard that right. And no, it's not about being a tyrant or walking around like a movie villain with a superiority complex. It's about understanding power. See, love is soft. It's beautiful, sure, but it's conditional. People love you as long as you're useful, as long as you're agreeable, as long as you don't threaten their comfort. But fear anchors. Fear commands respect even when emotions fade. Fear makes people think twice before testing you. But let's get something straight. This ain't about becoming some cold-hearted monster. Machiavelli never said, be hated. He said, don't depend on love to hold your kingdom together, because love can flip fast. Ask anyone who's been betrayed by someone who loved them. But fear, it's stable, predictable. Fear gets remembered even when you're not in the room. Now, here's the finesse. Too much fear and you become a tyrant. Too much love and you become a doormat. But strike the balance, now you're untouchable. You create presence, gravity, a kind of quiet authority that makes people respect your space without you having to bark for it. You ever seen that one person walk into a room, say nothing, and yet somehow they own the energy? They're not seeking approval. They're not putting on a mask. They've mastered the art of being unshakably centered. People don't fear their anger, they fear their absence. Because when they walk away, the room feels it. That's what real power looks like. So if you're out here thinking influence is about being liked, posting for validation, or people-pleasing your way through life, you're playing the wrong game. The real game is making people afraid to lose your presence. And that only comes when your respect isn't up for negotiation. Not love or fear, strategic fear. Calibrated presence, quiet control. That's what builds influence. That doesn't fade. Part 3, managing perception. Let's get one thing straight. In this world, it's not about who you really are, it's about who they think you are. Yeah, I know that hits a little ugly, but welcome to the real game. Machiavelli didn't waste time preaching about authenticity and just be yourself. He understood the ancient law of power. People don't follow truth, they follow appearance. And the illusion is everything. People aren't dissecting your soul, they're scanning the surface. And in a world that moves fast, they don't want the full story, they want a headline. So you better write it for them. If you look strong, they'll treat you like you are. If you appear generous, they'll adore you, even if you're calculating every move behind the scenes. If you carry yourself like royalty, they'll question themselves before they question you. This isn't about faking it. This is about orchestrating it. You don't need to be a saint. You just need to play the part when the spotlight's on you. You don't need to be feared all the time, just enough to keep people guessing. You don't need to always be right. You just need to look unfazed even when you're wrong, because people don't see reality, they see performance. And if you don't control the narrative, someone else will write it for you. Look around. The ones who rise, they're not always the most talented. They're the ones who understand stagecraft, the ones who know how to create presence, mystery, and myth. They don't just exist, they curate how they're seen. And here's the kicker. The better you are at managing perception, the more freedom you actually have behind the curtain. Why? Because while they're staring at the mask, you're pulling the strings. So when Machiavelli said it is not necessary to be virtuous, only to appear so, he wasn't being cynical. He was laying down one of the coldest, most strategic truths ever spoken. Control the show, edit the script, direct the spotlight, and let everyone else chase shadows while you move in silence. Part 4, the Prince's Toolbox. Okay, now that we've stripped the illusions and called out the game for what it really is, let's talk strategy. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince's Bedtime Reading. That book, it was a survival manual, a war map, a cold-blooded blueprint for anyone who wanted to play the game of power and actually win. This man had a toolbox, not some fluffy self-help tricks, real, raw techniques that could build empires or burn them down. And inside that box, one of the slickest tools of all, strategic generosity. Now hold up. Don't confuse this with being nice. This isn't about being liked, it's about being useful. It's about using generosity not as a gift, but as a hook. See, when most people think of power, they imagine someone hoarding resources, pulling strings in silence, flexing control like a tyrant. But Machiavelli flipped the script. He said give, but give with intention. Because when you give smart, you're not losing value, you're buying leverage. Let's break it down. You offer someone something, money, opportunity, access, attention, but not too much. Just enough to make them feel special. Just enough to make them think you're the source of something they want to keep coming back for. And once they do, you got something far more powerful than their gratitude. You got their psychological debt. But here's where it gets beautiful. You don't need them to say thank you. You don't even need them to realize they owe you. You just keep them in that quiet space of dependency, that subtle mental loop where your presence equals possibility, where your absence feels like a threat. Now, that's power. But don't get sloppy. The trick is subtlety. You can't look like you're buying loyalty. You got to make it feel organic, like you're just being generous. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, you're planting seeds that grow into control. Machiavelli knew this. People don't follow because you demand it. They follow because you create a reality where following you feels smart, where walking away feels like a risk. And strategic generosity, that's just one tool. The toolbox also has misdirection, controlled cruelty, manufactured symbols, well-timed silence, calculated alliances. Each one of them isn't just about playing the game, it's about designing the board. So while the world's out here playing checkers, trying to be liked, trying to be understood, you're setting traps in the shadows. You're choosing every move with precision. You're not reacting, you're orchestrating. That's the power of the Prince's Toolbox. Now, tell me, you ready to stop being a piece on the board and start becoming the one who moves them all?